Up on Boggins Heights. The two girls hurried out of the building, up the street toward Boggins Heights, the part of town that wore such a forbidding air on this kind of November afternoon, drizzly, damp, and dismal. Well, at least, said Peggy gruffly, I never did call her a foreigner or make fun of her name. I never thought she had the sense to know we were making fun of her anyway. I thought she was too dumb. And gee, look how she can draw. And I thought I could draw. Maddie could say nothing. All she hoped was that they would find Wanda, just so she'd be able to tell her they were sorry they had picked on her. And just to say how wonderful the whole school thought she was, and please not to move away, and everyone would be nice. She and Peggy would fight anybody who was not nice. Maddie fell to imagining a story in which she and Peggy assailed any bully who might be going to pick on Wanda. Petronsky-onsky, someone would yell, and she and Peggy would pounce on the guilty one. For a time, Maddie consoled herself with these thoughts, but they soon vanished, and again she felt unhappy and wished everything could be nice the way it was before any of them had made fun of Wanda. Brr! How drab and cold and cheerless it was up on the heights. In the summertime, the woods, the sumac, and the ferns that grew along the brook on the side of the road were lush and made this a beautiful walk on a Sunday afternoons. But now it did not seem beautiful. The brook had shrunk to the merest trickle, and today's drizzle sharpened the outlines of the rusty tin cans, old shoes, and forlorn remnants of a big black umbrella in the bed of the brook. The two girls hurried on. They hoped to get to the top of the hill before dark. Otherwise, they were not certain they could find Wanda's house. At last, puffing and panting, they rounded to the top of the hill. The first house, that old rickety one, belonged to Old Man Svensson. Peggy and Maddie hurried past it almost on tiptoe. Somebody said once that Old Man Svensson had shot a man. Others said, nonsense. He's an old good-for-nothing. Wouldn't hurt a flea. But false or not, the girls breathed more freely as they rounded the corner, as it was too cold and drizzly for Old Man Svensson to be in his customary chair tilted against the house, chewing and spitting tobacco juice. Even his dog was nowhere in sight, and had not barked at the girls from wherever he might be. I think that's where the Petronskys live, said Maddie, pointing to a little white house with lots of chicken coops at the side of it. Wisps of old grass stuck up here and there along the pathway, like thin wet kittens. The house in its sparse little yard looked shabby, but clean. It reminded Maddie of Wanda's one dress, her faded blue cotton dress, shabby but clean. There was not a sign of life in the house except for a yellow cat, half grown, crouching on one small step close to the front door. It leapt timidly with a small cry halfway up a tree when the girls came into the yard. Peggy knocked firmly on the door, but there was no answer. She and Maddie went around to the backyard and knocked there. Still there was no answer. Wanda, called Peggy. They listened sharply, but only a deep silence pressed against their eardrums. There was no doubt about it. The Petronskys were gone. Maybe they just went away for a little while, and they haven't really left with their furniture yet, suggested Maddie hopefully. Maddie was beginning to wonder how she could bear the hard fact that Wanda had actually gone, and she might never be able to make amends. Well, said Peggy, let's see if the door is open. They cautiously turned the knob in front of the front door. It opened easily, for it was a light thing and looked as though it furnished but frail protection against the cold winds that blew up here in the wintertime. The little square room that the door opened into was empty. There was absolutely nothing left in it, and in the corner, a closet with its door wide open was empty. too. Maddie wondered what it had held before the Petronskis moved out. And she thought of Wanda saying, "Sure, 100 dresses, all lined up in the closet." Well, anyway, real and imaginary dresses alike were gone. The Petronskis were gone. And now how could she and Peggy tell Wanda anything? Maybe the teacher knew where they had moved to. Maybe Old Man Svensson knew. They might knock on his door and ask on the way down. Or the post office might know. If they wrote a letter, Wanda might get it because the post office might forward it. Feeling very downcast and discouraged, the girls closed the door and started for home. Coming down the road, way, way off in the distance, through the drizzle, they could see the water of the bay, gray and cold. Stop here for today.